So Allison in the chat just gave you props for your excellent response to, I believe it was the question about how to explain why you left a job. I think that's when that feedback came in. But yes, and she just confirmed that is the one she meant. So thank you. That was an excellent answer. One more question, and then I think perhaps we'll start to wrap up because we're we're nearing the end of our hour. So a question from RT: is there a huge difference between permanent position interviews versus contract positions? I'm not sure if you're familiar with that at all. So
I am.
Great.
But from the student affairs end, I had been both, and then I've also sat on hiring committees for both, right? It just depends on the institution, right? For something, I know in the state of Maryland, we have what's called C1s, which are just like base hourly. Like we might bring an undergraduate employee or a graduate employee in for, you know, however much an hour to do a very specific test. And then there's the idea of a C2, which is like a specialized knowledge kind of thing. And either one of those, I mean, not either one, let me clarify. C2 is more likely to be like what's envisioned as a more long-term permanent roles. So sometimes those will be the full shebang, right? Those full in-day interviews. But I have had contractual interviews that were an hour because they're like, well, we don't have any obligation to keep you on for X many years. We'll just bring you in quickly, get the work done, and then reassess in the future. And that, in my experience, can literally go either way. It just, think about how the role is advertised. Is it a short-term role? Is it, you know, terminal? It's really hard to know, and see if you can, you know, find any insiders at the institution. Do you have any friend of a friend you can ask someone about this job or what they're looking for or what they expect? The library world is small. It's very small. So you probably do have a friend of a friend of a friend who can hook you up somehow.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Allison. This has been a really wonderful presentation, great Q&A. Thank you so much for filling up the hour when we ended up giving you much more time than you had originally expected. So I want to thank you for that. We're getting a lot of love in the chat. And so I want to thank everybody for attending during this very difficult time. I've put a link to our YouTube channel in the chat. And I also am about to put a link to an assessment form. And I'd appreciate it if everyone could please let us know how we did, give us your feedback. And I just want to thank all of you for your time. So thank you. And Elise, do you have any last words?
I was hoping you're going to maybe talk a little bit more about those positions, so that especially those who are still in grad students will understand the different type of lines that are funded through academic positions before we closed out.
Sure.
We probably have 6 minutes.
I
think
talk about that was definitely an oversight on my part, Elise, and that is something to be super aware of, right? As you're a graduate student, are you moving across the country for a contractual position? Look up what those words mean. I know people who have taken positions thinking it was full-time permanent and moved and given up their lives and then been told, oh, that's only a year or something like a fellowship. It's a lot more work on your end, but it's something to be really, really aware of because you don't want to be in a precarious position, especially not right now. And make sure you know what you're getting yourself into. So look up, like most state university systems will have each of those classifications spelled out. Private schools, yes or no, right? But make sure you can really understand what that line means. And if you're not getting clarity on that, just ask the hiring manager. Ask, is this full-time? Is this benefited? You know, is this a terminal role? Is this grant funded? If it's grant funded, that grant could run out, right? If it's the work you want to do, wonderful. But if you're, you know, packing up your family of 6 like mine, maybe that's not the role for you. So just really, really, really be wary of what you're walking into, because I know people who have been hurt by that.
And don't think that if you take the position, it's grant funded, that they'll find you a position. It is clearly defined in a grant position that it will terminate at that time, and that you think you're a great worker, they will find you a position and you move your family across. And some jobs offer moving expenses only if you're in a certain position, such as a permanent funded line in their budget. If you're coming in as a staff, like at certain colleges, they will not pay for your moving expenses if you are a staff person. So you have to be aware of that and ask those type of questions when you come for your campus interview, and read very carefully. It'll tell you this is a benefited position, or say this is a term, T-E-R-M, term position. And under term positions, a lot of those benefits aren't there. So those are things you have to understand as a student graduating looking for a position. So I'm going to end there. Definitely want to thank Allison for coming out and taking the time to present to us. Thank you to the entire team for LAMA New Professional LIS Outreach. This is our last presentation, our last webinar under the title of LAMA New Professional Outreach, LIS Outreach. We will be transitioning, I hope, under CORE, because LAMA, LIDA, and another group, we're forming a different group under continuing education under CORE. And so we hope to come back with a new name. So that's why it was really important for everybody to register, so that we can have your email address. And so as we move forward in the fall, that we can reach out to you and have more informative types of career-driven type of webinars. And definitely want to say thank you for taking the time to be out. Say thank you again to Shannon for being our facilitator. Sarah, thank you for pulling this all together in the background. Allison for being back there pulling this particular workshop together with our speakers. And again, thank you all for coming out.
Thank you. Then we will be ending. Thanks to everyone, and thank you, Elise, and thank you, Allison.